Yeah. Keep this mic away from my mouth. George having a bad day. All right, folks, what the fuck is up? This is the News Underground, and I am Abandoned Nihilism, the harbinger of things to come. We're going to get started here. I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but there's just too much good news. Not good news, technically. Technically, it's all bad news, but it's juicy news. And you think I'm just going to sit here, rest on my laurels when I hear both Discord and email notification? I know exactly what's going on. Yeah, I like to let the Discord know what's happening. But yeah, big props to 6 extermination soul collectors. But here we go, folks. Real quick, just to run over what we're going to be covering. Senator Menendez, major corruption. We're also going to be covering a little bit of Clarence Thomas and his corruption. We're going to be covering, those. We're not going to watch both those videos in full. We're going to jump into the government shutdown with McCarthy. Oh, we bang out. We banging out. I was like, we're banging one of these out. You know, I don't make any money doing this, so this is like work. Okay. Hey, welcome back, Ford the Perfect, Snow, Chem Goblin, good to see you. We're going to jump into Azerbaijan. We won't have time for a full, history of Azerbaijan conflict, but we will get an update on the situation. Then we will be jumping into a little bit of Ukrainian news. There's some Ukrainian-Canadian news we want to jump into as well, but then we're just going to get our map update and other updates here. And yeah, if you hear some noise in the background, don't worry about it. That's just my beautiful wife cooking and being beautiful. So get over it. So let's jump right into this. Bob Menendez. Okay, look, if you don't know what's going on, yes, I'm streaming from a laptop. I'm on vacation. All right? This is called The Grind, and I'm on it. I'm on the grind, motherfucker. Sounds of being beautiful. That's right. You know it. But no, guys, if you don't know what's going on with Bob Menendez, and this is why I had to fire up the stream, because it's hilarious. The guy had... The camera is not shaking enough. Yeah, right. I got to do like the cell phone thing, right? And just like walk around or like be in my car, right? Is that what you're looking for? Well, thank you, Chem Goblin. But no, this Bob Menendez shit. Hey, my son. No. He's fine. He's being a beautiful baby boy. But no, this Bob Menendez stuff is absolutely hilarious because the guy had gold bars. He had piles of cash stuffed into his pocket. And yes, he's a Democrat, and I don't give a shit. I care about law and order. Hillary Clinton, if she's guilty, go to jail, Hillary Clinton. Hunter Biden, go to jail if you're guilty. I don't give a shit. Yes, Ford, I do have a baby. Just one, thank God. I don't know how these guys, they're out here with like multiple kids, and it's just like, I look at them with dread. Yeah, exactly. Ford the Perfect. Hilarious stuff with Bob Menendez. So I found this really great CNN clip, and I love the racial aspect of this, of like two intelligent black guys covering this incredibly corrupt, pudding-faced, oligarch white guy. I think it's really, really great. So let's jump into this. I just thought this was great. I was like, hell yeah, dude. CNN getting it right for once. Oh yeah, dude. And just cash. And then the 9 gold bars, I think 9 gold bars in total that he got from Egypt, from this halal meat distributor or something. Holy shit. So yeah, let's jump into this. Oh, I won't be able to have kids in 10 years.
Menendez is resisting calls for his resignation after being charged with several corruption-related offenses by the Justice Department. Menendez and his wife.
All right, hold on, guys. I'm going to disconnect my Bluetooth speaker here because it's screwing with my volume. 1 second here. Let me get this.
Accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in exchange for the senator's influence. This is the second time in the last decade Menendez is facing corruption charges.
And prosecutors say the bribes included gold bars, cash, home mortgage payments, and a luxury vehicle. Menendez denied the accusations and responded to calls for his resignation, saying he is, quote, not going anywhere. CNN's Kara Scannell has the latest.
Some of the cash was stuffed in the senator's jacket pockets.
Indicted again. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez facing corruption-related charges for the second time in 10 years. Prosecutors announcing a 3-count federal indictment against the Democratic senator and his wife over their dealings with 3 New Jersey associates and businessmen starting in at least 2018.
The senator and his wife accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars of bribes in exchange for Senator Menendez using his power and influence to protect and to enrich those businessmen.
The alleged bribes include more than $550,000 in cash hidden in the senator's home.
Look at that. He was so used to taking bribes. He would just get home after a long, hard day of taking bribes and just leave the money in his jacket. And I guess presumably his maid or someone would go through his jackets eventually and remove these massive bundles of cash. But this guy I keep telling my wife this. She hasn't laughed at the joke yet, so I'm going to see if you guys find it funny. But the only thing that they haven't found is big cloth sacks with money symbols written on it. You know what I mean? I mean, this guy is like classic corruption. This is like old school, gold bars and fucking cash, putting in your pocket. Thank you so much. I'll vote the way you want me to. This guy is as fucking, old school as it gets.
Home and safe deposit box, a Mercedes-Benz convertible, and gold bars worth tens of thousands of dollars, among other things. The indictment also alleges the Senate Foreign Relations Committee chair, quote, provided sensitive U.S. government information and took other steps that secretly aided the government of Egypt.
Wow. Behind the scenes, Senator Menendez was doing those things for certain people, the people who were bribing him and his wife.
The senator issued a defiant statement in response to the U.S. Attorney's latest allegations. I have been falsely accused before because I refused to back down to the powers that be, and the people of New Jersey were able to see through the smoke and mirrors and recognize I was innocent. Menendez has long maintained his innocence in this latest probe into his dealings, telling CNN back in April,
this inquiry will end up, I believe, in absolutely nothing.
The senator faced similar corruption charges in 2015. He fought off conspiracy, bribery, and other fraud charges related to political favors.
To those who were digging my political grave so that they could jump into my seat, I know who you are, and I won't forget you.
That case ended in a mistrial, a partial acquittal, and all charges against the senator being dropped. In this latest case, Menendez remains defiant, saying he won't be, quote, distracted by baseless accusations. A lawyer for the senator's wife said that she denies any wrongdoing. All 5 defendants are due in court Wednesday to face these charges. The U.S. Attorney's Office says this investigation is still ongoing, and that comes amid growing calls by New Jersey lawmakers for the senator to resign. Victor, Omar?
Kara Scannell for us. Thank you so much. Joining me now is CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson.
Yo,
Joey, good morning to you. Let's start here
CNN.
With the bar. And proving bribery and corruption is a lot harder than it was a decade ago. There's got to be this quid pro quo and the employment of official acts. So when you look at this case and the indictment that has now been filed, how hard?
No, I'm not sure who he is, but I just like that CNN is like, let's get 3 black guys to cover this, like a black, it's awesome. I think it's really cool. I think CNN should keep this up, dude. CNN should become like the black person's news channel. That would be awesome.
Will it be to prove based on what we know thus far about the case?
Yeah, Victor, good morning to you.
CNN needed some flavor,
is exactly
dude.
Right. That's predicated upon a Supreme Court case which spoke to the issue of formulating that nexus, that is, that connection, right, between the official action, of course, and what you did in exchange. And so in answer to your question, that's going to be the challenge. If you look at the indictment itself, it certainly looks to be very compelling. It speaks to the issue of power. It speaks to the influence of, it speaks to the issue of influence and corruption. The issue for me be is whether you can establish the requisite causal link between the senator's actions and activities and what, if anything, he was being offered to do them. Senators, I think the defense will be engaging constituent services. They meet with constituents. They take up causes that they believe to be necessary and appropriate. They further their interest of constituents, whether that be because you sit on a foreign relations committee, as Mr. Senator Menendez does, whether it is because you're impairing or getting involved in an investigation that you believe is unworthy. And so to the core of your question, I think that prosecutors are going to say, no matter what you have in the indictment that we see there about gold bars or money or cash or jackets that, in the indictment the money is sitting upon, did you do and did you engage in that official action as a result of that? If not,
when they broke in, the report said he was breaking up bricks of cocaine into the toilet bowl and trying to flush it desperately. I'm kidding, of course, but Jesus Christ, I mean, it's really shocking as well to see not the entire Democratic Party needs to be in lockstep asking this guy to resign, like they did with Al Franken. Okay, so what's the holdup here? Okay.
Not, then of course the prosecution becomes problematic. If so, then we're in a far different universe.
How explicit must the connection be? Because people sitting at home looking at this graphic, the pictures on the screen, wonder why else would business associates or friends or those people working on behalf of the Egyptian government give gold bars or a Mercedes or pay the mortgage or $500K cash, if indeed they did that, except for something in return.
It's totally innocent, guys. Just, favor, it's not corruption. I can tell you that. It's totally free speech is what it is. Just, he's a politician accepting gold bars from his buddies and his friends. It's totally normal stuff, guys.
Return, does it have to be written? How explicit must it be?
Well, it has to be more explicit than innuendo. Certainly on the face of it, you could make the suggestion that what are you doing with gold bars? What are you doing with cash, right? What are you doing with Mercedes? What are you doing with mortgage payments?
What is this cloth sack with a money symbol, sir?
It's being made on your behalf. However,
what is this raccoon mask and black and white striped shirt that you have, sir?
To the extent that clients, or in this particular situation, constituents might feel that the senator has engaged and gone above and beyond, then perhaps we're in the realm and the universe of him accepting gifts or something else in exchange for doing the tremendous job that he was doing. The nexus has to be one of not just, wow, this looks pretty bad, right? In an indictment, which is an accusation, it may look that way, but in a court of law, you have to establish, if you're the prosecutor, that the senator did this for that the senator engaged and used his official office in exchange because he knew, because he anticipated, because the quo pro was because you're giving me gold bars, you're paying a mortgage.
Come on, guys, are we dumb?
You're giving me money, and so was there that link? Was he
Look how low, talking about bars, but look how low the bar is, right? Look how well these corrupt politicians on the left and the right, quite frankly, have watered down the definition of corruption, where we literally have this cartoon character stuffing money bundles into his fucking jacket, and we're still having a conversation about what is and isn't corruption. You know what I mean? Look how successful they've been at convincing us that money is free speech.
Acting in the capacity of his job, and did he do it corruptly, or would he have engaged in these activities anyway? Victor, the lines are often blurred. A senator has fundraisers and engages in other activities, as do congressmen and women, because they're around people who want their influence, who want them to use the influence in an advantageous way. Is that predicated upon me being fraudulent, or is it predicated upon me doing my job effectively and being rewarded in kind? And those are going to be the issues, I think, that'll be displayed in court.
So let's talk about that. I want to pull that thread a bit more. And what we heard from the U.S. Attorney Damian Williams there in the Southern District of New York announcing this indictment was that
bog standard neoliberal corporatist, not a progressive getting destroyed by any means. So fuck Bob Menendez, absolutely.
The senator on his website highlights what he can do on behalf of a constituent and what he cannot do on behalf of a constituent. Is there some legal relevance to, and he talked about it really high up in the news conference yesterday, of outlining those and the senator's awareness of what he can and cannot do?
You know, Victor, I think the senator certainly put that on the website, as perhaps, you know, many other senators and Congress people do, to give the indication that when you come to my office, we cannot make exchanges and I can't use my influence to engage in an inappropriate way on your behalf, to corruptly influence anyone. And so I think that's there for state of mind. You know, gone are the days, apparently, Victor, where the indictments just gave a, you know, bare bones narrative with respect to what a defendant is accused of doing. In this indictment, you've got pictures, you've got gold bars, you've got money, you've got that, what you referenced about the website excerpt.
Oh, and that's his wife that he just married just recently. She's like a total like socialite, you know what I mean? Like the fucking housewives of fucking fucking Washington D.C., dude.
Of text message exchanges. And so the realities are is that I think they're doing that as prosecutors to establish a narrative. Certainly that narrative publicly looks troubling. The issue is whether or not it would comport with the law as it relates to bribery, as it relates to honest services fraud. We owe a fiduciary duty. You do.
So, I mean, that's how ridiculous the laws around corruption are right now. Where I mean, it's still up for grabs in court if he's actually committed a crime. That's how bad things have gotten, folks.
If you're a congressman, senator, to represent your constituents accurately and appropriately without exchange for anything, whether it could, and they can establish extortion. Those are other issues. So certainly the indictment, it really sings in terms of potential corruption. The issue is whether there was and whether there's that appropriate nexus and connection between what the senator was doing and what he was receiving as a result of what he was doing, or were they just merely gifts in exchange for a job well done?
Just gifts for a job well done, guys.
All right, we're just beginning here. Joey Jackson.
Yeah, because this guy's getting it done for us, right? This guy, job well done. This guy, I bet, stuffing money in his pockets, you know, spending it on like gaudy things, like a trophy wife, and you know, and like, you know, I bet his house is just, you know, gaudy. You know what I mean? All right, so let's in keeping with the theme of corruption, let's jump into SCOTUS as well. I haven't talked enough about Clarence Thomas. I mean, my entire life, Clarence Thomas has been the go-to example of how broken the system is. So it's like, what took you so long, guys? Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? This guy has been corrupt and disgusting and partisan, and like obviously partisan. It's an absolute joke that this guy sits on the Supreme Court. He's so nakedly partisan for the Republican Party. It's like literally he takes pride in not making comments or not anything, just literally rubber stamp, check. What does the Republican Party say? Okay, bye, thanks. Going back to do another paid for vacation, right? I mean, he's really been that disgusting and that blatant for decades. If you've been following politics, you know about Clarence Thomas. So, you know, what happened? Now all of a sudden we got a problem with this? So I love to see it, but I'm just curious. Why now? What changed? You know, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? So let's see what this Botox zombie from MSNBC has to say about it.
If there is such a thing as a breaking point, a last straw to break the camel's back, we must be pretty darn close. Because how many more times can the American people be expected to go through this? With Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. This afternoon, yet another major news story to add to our growing list of serious ethical questions about perhaps undue influence and seeming impropriety at the nation's highest court. ProPublica, once again, breaking the story that Justice Thomas has attended at least 2 Koch donor summits, according to interviews with 3 former employees of that group.
That's Koch with a K. KOCH. They're billionaire oligarchs. If you're not sure what a Coke summit is, if you think a Coke summit is what it sounds like a lot of fun. But unfortunately, no, it's a lot of old white guys handing out bribes to influential politicians. We're drinking some Crush today. The selection of drinks was rather limited at the general store on the way to the cabin.
And one major donor, quote, putting him in the extraordinary position of having helped a political network that has brought multiple cases before the Supreme Court. As you are likely well aware by now, the Koch network for decades.
Yeah. So this is a Coke. This is what a Coke is. Disgusting oligarchs intent on installing a fascist authoritarian leader. That's their kind of end goal. What's interesting to me is that these are the guys that are going to feel really burnt when they lose control, over this, that they're going to give ultimate power to an authoritarian. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be winning out. But basically, I mean, this man especially cannot wait to enslave you. I mean, he has zero respect for regular folks. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he has, proclivities towards eugenics and other crazy shit. I mean, guys like this they take the cake.
Has grown and wielded its influence to shape the course of American policy and law on a steeply rightward trajectory. So you can understand why such a years-long relationship, almost entirely out of the public eye, is so concerning, particularly when the court is expected to hear a case brought by that network, one of the most closely watched of the upcoming term. We'll tell you about Chevron in a moment, but first we should note that NBC News has not independently verified the ProPublica reporting, although we reached out to Justice Thomas for comment this morning. So far, we've received none. In the past, Thomas has contended that he's always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines. Now, interestingly, it doesn't appear that he's done that all of the time either. Now, as for the Koch network, a spokesperson did not answer detailed questions from ProPublica, but insisted Justice Thomas, quote, wasn't present for fundraising conversations, end quote. But at the very least, today's news is the latest in a series of revelations, drip, drip, drips, if you will, casting new doubt on the impartiality inside the Supreme Court, a body currently experiencing an historic low in confidence among the American people. That is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. With me at the table, ProPublica.
No, we're good. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give you the rundown. Yes, Clarence Thomas is incredibly corrupt. It's beyond a doubt. We don't need experts or analysts. I mean, I think one of the people is the author of the ProPublica thing, but whatever. We're not doing it. So I just want to get the other rundown, which is Senator Durbin. Yeah, Supreme Court rocks. Senator Durbin calls on Clarence Thomas to recuse himself. So just more calls from actual people in power for Clarence Thomas to recuse himself.
To our top story, since we've been on the air in the last 10 minutes, Senator Dick Durbin, who is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, has called on Justice Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from the case we're talking about, the one having to do with that legal doctrine, Chevron. Quote, once again, Justice Thomas is... And
he won't. Clarence Thomas, because if he recuses himself, then he's basically admitting that he's biased. So he won't do it. And he's shameless. He's utterly shameless. So he'll have no problem sitting there with egg on his face, total hypocrite, total conflict of interest, no biggie.
Gaggle of fawning billionaires expands and their influence on the court grows larger. The Koch brothers are the architects of one of the largest, most successful political operations in history, aimed at influencing all levels of government and the courts. Justice Thomas hid the extent of his involvement with the Koch political network and never reported gifts associated with these engagements. The Koch network has invested tremendous capital to overturn long-standing legal precedent known as Chevron deference, which would handcuff regulators and serve the interests of corporate fat cats. As more details are revealed of Justice Thomas's undisclosed involvement with the Koch political network, there are serious questions about his impartiality in cases squarely confronting the Chevron doctrine. For these
so are you're being unironic then, Equal Dari? So things need to get so bad that we need to be in a gulag for you to say that there's a problem? Is it impossible for you to do a little independent research on Clarence Thomas's obvious corruption for you to make your own fucking opinion? Or really, we have to get to the point where America becomes a big gulag and then maybe you'll have a problem with the corruption? What exactly are you saying?
Reasons I'm calling on Justice Thomas to recuse himself. Again, that was a statement issued in the last 10 minutes from U.S. Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin, who is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Gabe, we are happy to have that statement to add to our conversation.
No. Thanks so much, MSNBC. So there you go. Dick Durbin made a fucking statement asking Clarence Thomas to recuse himself. He won't. I don't need 3 randos to bloviate on that. Okay, Equal Dari, thank you for confirming that you do live on planet Earth. All right, so moving on to the government shutdown here. So let me just go ahead and real quick play some tunage. It's the end of the song. Okay, hold on. Gov shutdown. I'm doing this with one hand. Give me a break. Yeah, exactly. Those lifetime appointments, really fucking awesome. More of those, please. More lifetime appointments for hyper corrupt, super partisan bad actors. That's exactly what we need to secure democracy for the next 100 years. But talking about securing democracy, McCarthy dealing with Matt Gaetz and a minority of right-wing Republicans who are refusing to do anything. They're just like literally, you know, it's their playbook. Obstruct, obstruct, obstruct until you put me in charge. The only thing I accept is you putting me in charge. Apparently, you know, these people are being offered almost everything and they're still rejecting it, which tells you something about the neoliberals who are, you know, offering all these concessions to these hardliners, right? It makes you wish that AOC and some of these other left-wing, so-called left-wing hardliners would actually leverage their power because, gee, it seems to work really well. Marjorie Taylor Greene apparently getting 95% of what she wants and still rejecting it. Gee, it seems like leveraging your political power really works. But I mean, so the specifically what I was talking about though was conversations within the Republican Party. But it is telling that, you know, you can leverage your political power and change the dynamics of your party. Because apparently you know, all these so-called moderate right-wingers are giving everything over to Marjorie Taylor Greene and 4 or 5 other extremists. And they still don't want it. They still don't want to take it. They want the shutdown. They want the pain. They want to see it. And I honestly do believe that if we get a Matt Gaetz or a Marjorie Taylor Greene or any of these hyper MAGA characters, if we get them in charge of the Republican Party, they may go as far as to let the American dollar collapse by not paying our bills. They might do it. They might do it. It's frightening to think. You know, it's unbelievable that the neoliberals haven't fixed this problem, because they could actually pass a law when they had a supermajority, could have passed a law that says we're no longer having a debate on the budget. It's undebatable. We're paying our bills. But they want to perpetuate this because the debt debate is actually it's a canard, my favorite word, but it's a total canard because it's an opportunity to insert pro-corporate, pro-oligarchy stuff into these bills, and it gives the neoliberals and the left cover for passing these extremely corporate bills. We had no choice. We have to pay our debts. We had no choice but to agree with the Republicans and their extreme legislation, and we just had to compromise on it. It gives them cover to further push our policies to the right against poor people, and of course massive tax cuts and breaks for the rich and the oil industry and all that, fill in the blank, right? But it gives them cover to do that, and that's a huge problem, and that's why they don't want to fix it. They don't want to fix it because it allows them to pass really draconian stuff that their donors want them to pass, but they have to pretend like they're progressive, right? Fucking bastards. All right, so let's get into it here. McCarthy talking, he's like, oh, leopards ate my face, right? I mean, these people that use a technique that we really like against the neoliberals are now using it against us, and we don't like it. They're not playing nice. I mean, that's who they are.
Speaking of the House, Kevin McCarthy told reporters yesterday that he believes his conference is making progress in its negotiations and anticipates to resume voting on a minibus, as opposed to an omnibus, a minibus, a series of appropriation bills on Tuesday.
So this is hilarious. They think somehow breaking this up into 10 or 15 individual bills is going to work. Right. So instead of doing an omnibus where they have a big list of things that they pass, they're going to try to do each individual one. It's immediately failing. It's not working at all. So they're trying to pass like the easy stuff. Right. OK, fine. We'll just pass some of the stuff that we all agree on then right now so that we can get some progress somewhere. And they're going, no. They're saying, no. We're not going to vote for the things that we want because we're not getting it in the way that we want to get it. This is it. This is who they are, folks. And they're going to do this once they are in charge of the country. They will be doing this to the entire country.
Now, it's important to note that unlike during other potential shutdowns, this isn't largely a fight between Republicans and Democrats. It's a fight between Republicans and far-right Republicans, an insurgency led by members like Florida's Matt Gaetz and a small number of hardliners who are demanding deep budget cuts and the addition of controversial policies that have basically no chance of passing in the Senate. Yeah. Since even before this Congress could gavel into session, Gaetz has been McCarthy's chief antagonist. Tensions between the two men were evident way back in January during the prolonged speakership election. Gaetz has continued to turn up the heat on McCarthy this week, threatening to oust him and posting on the social media platform X yesterday, quote, "We're going to have to address his leadership after we get through this government funding crisis," end quote. But the tension isn't just...
How hilarious is the fact that Twitter was so embedded into mainstream media's news cycle that even after Elon Musk has turned it into a right-wing hellscape, they're still, it's because there's no alternative right now. So they're stuck on Elon Musk's platform. I guarantee you, when Blue Sky becomes a thing, when it opens to the public, we're going to see the mainstream media running to Blue Sky immediately. They want to disconnect themselves from X, I'm sure, as soon as possible because of the associations, right? But it is so funny how firmly embedded Twitter was into the news cycle. I find that fascinating.
Just between Gaetz and McCarthy, now the frustrations within the House Republican Conference are spilling out into the open, with various members calling their party dysfunctional and calling the process painful. Joining me now is the Republican Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska. He's a member of the House Agriculture and Armed Services Committee.
Yeah, okay, so this guy gets all weepy-eyed about the old school Republican Party. He talks about how the people doing this are just a bunch of extremists. Ari Veshley here pretends like he calls himself a city slicker in this interview. Look, it's intolerable. I'm not gonna do the whole thing. Long story short, they're frustrated. They're trying to say it's like only 5%. But what they don't mention is that this guy and all of the other so-called moderates have to appeal to their constituents who are extremists. A big chunk of them are, stop the steal. I wish we could get more demographics. I don't know. I mean, in some places that's true. In other places it's not true. It depends on where you're at. More rich, affluent areas are going to be less likely to believe the stop the steal stuff, but still vote Republican. Of course, more poor areas are going to be stop the steal, hyper MAGAs. So it does depend on the demographics. Some places the extremists are the minority, but it seems to me that a grand majority of these so-called moderates still have to appeal and dog whistle to extremist positions because a big chunk, I guess maybe it's not a majority of their constituency, but it's a large enough chunk of their constituency to where they have to dog whistle, they have to do those things. And then you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz who no longer have to dog whistle. Their constituency totally extreme and loves it. Anyway, I'm not getting a lot of chat interaction here, so I'm just going to be blasting through. Nagorno-Karabakh, I mean, my God, how the hell do I say this? Hopefully she'll help us pronounce it. Peace negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan end without agreement. So, yeah, moving on to the Azerbaijan situation. Looks like, I mean, it looks like just it's over. I mean, the real question is, what happens to this ethnic minority? AIJAN. I mean, that's what I get for showing MSNBC and CNN is, you know, everyone leaves, but whatever. I'm going to cover this anyway, because this is about activism, not about self-aggrandizement. So let's jump in.
Have accused Azerbaijani security forces of violating the ceasefire in Nagorno-Karabakh. Authorities said gunfire had been heard in the center of the regional capital. Azerbaijan denies the accusations. This comes as peace negotiations between the two sides end without an agreement. Talks in the Azeri city of Yevlakh were scheduled after Azerbaijan's military victory this week over ethnic Armenian separatists in Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, the region is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, even though most of its residents are ethnic Armenians, and it has long functioned as a de facto autonomous region. At an address celebrating Armenian independence from the Soviet Union, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan called for peace.
Many people think it is not adequate to talk about peace in this tense regional environment, under the conditions of military conflict flaring from time to time. But particularly under these conditions, peace should be valued, and peace should not be confused with a truce or a ceasefire.
So, I mean, this region was being supported by Armenia, but it wasn't all of Armenia, right? So I guess that's what's being negotiated now is Armenia is negotiating a peace with Azerbaijan to end conflict after Azerbaijan has taken over this area that was being occupied by an Armenian ethnic minority. Do I have that right?
For more, I can now speak to Narek Safarian. He's an independent researcher on the South Caucasus, and he joins us tonight from Washington. Welcome. Now, Azerbaijan aims to reintegrate Nagorno-Karabakh along with its population.
Okay. Nagorno-Karabakh.
What do you think lies ahead for the ethnic Armenians living there?
Thank you for this opportunity. There's really just a lot of uncertainty in the air. As you mentioned, there are some reports even of the ceasefire not being honored by the Azerbaijani side. The concerns of the Armenians of Artsakh, of Nagorno-Karabakh, are very well-grounded. Some individuals and expert organizations have even gone so far as to characterize Azerbaijani policies as genocide or ethnic cleansing. So it's very difficult to imagine a secure Armenian population living under the Azerbaijani government, and I'm afraid the question marks loom very large.
Okay, so no one has an answer to what the hell's going to happen to this ethnic minority. Great. Let's hope it just lingers for a couple years until people just flip out and start killing each other. That'll be really great.
Yeah, the Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, we heard him there. He says that there is no direct threat to the civilian population of Nagorno-Karabakh. So do you think he's mistaken there?
I think that there's a lack of information coming out of Nagorno-Karabakh at the moment. The infrastructure has been very badly damaged anyway after 9 or 10 months of a blockade with very limited electricity and fuel and gas. So that is definitely one factor. The other factor is Mr. Pashinyan's emphasis that the Armenians of Artsakh, of Nagorno-Karabakh, must be allowed to continue living in their homes. There have to be mechanisms in place that guarantee their security. So the Armenian government itself is not preparing to welcome an influx of refugees.
Armenia, now that you talk about security guarantees, Armenia relied on Russian peacekeepers to maintain order and protect civilians. Now, we know that Russia has a war on its hands. It's presumably distracted right now, but the peacekeepers were on the ground. So why were they not able to stop this?
The Russian peacekeepers have had a mixed outcome over the past two and a half years, it's true. And in particular, yesterday, it seems like there was a political decision. The rhetoric coming out of Moscow in the last 2 days suggests very strongly that for the leadership of Russia, the Karabakh issue has been, the status of Nagorno-Karabakh, rather, is no longer a priority, and that the policies pursued by Baku should be treated as an internal matter for Azerbaijan. Now, they also are emphasizing that recent outreach by Yerevan to the West is a contributing factor, but the only real power with a presence on the ground has been Russia all this time. So whatever Western initiatives have taken place, they have not been sufficient.
And this is where the criticisms of the West, ring true. It's not like we should be spreading democracy, with that robot from Fallout 3. Not like that. But, the criticism of the West is that we won't fuck with you, with your country, unless we can exploit you. Unless there's something we can get out of it. We're not going to interact with you. We're not going to treat you, we're going to basically try to delegitimize you in a way and weaken you until you play ball one way or the other. And it is manipulative, and it does deserve criticism. It's not, no, I'm building the robot. Democracy is not negotiable. So, that is a legitimate criticism of the Western alliance and how it treats other countries. Now, with that said, is the West really supposed to treat the Taliban in Afghanistan as like the legitimate government while they're oppressing women and doing God knows what to the children that are there in that country? No, but I mean, I feel like there's a lack of creativity, right? It's if the problem can't be fixed militarily, we don't seem to give a shit. We don't try anything, unless it's like the CIA doing coups or something like that, but it's got to be like at the barrel of a gun, or we're just not even going to fuck with it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but it just feels like the only thing we ever try is sticking a gun in someone's face and saying, do what we say, or economic manipulation, geopolitical manipulation. But it's like, have we ever tried just being nice, and just like building some hospitals and building some schools and handing out some pamphlets about democracy and how you too could have your own democratic republic and, all these things? Like, I know a lot of people laugh at these efforts of like pamphlets and pamphleting and things like that. And I understand that, but it also feels like we're not really giving it a good go. We're not giving it that old college try, The thing that we're really enthusiastic about is sending in our military or a bunch of robot drones or fill in the blank, right? Speaking of which, wow, that is a low-flying airplane. Wow, that airplane was really flying really quite low. Wow, okay. Back to the video.
There has been monitoring by the European Union that has contributed to some security on the borders with Azerbaijan and Armenia. But on the whole, there is no one to replace the Russians.
That's sad. And that's sad. That is a failure of the West, right? To just let the Russians walk in and just, and I'm not saying they have to, go in with guns and stuff, but really you're just going to let the Russian government control the narrative and let them cosplay as peacemakers without doing anything to one up them or, anything. It's kind of shitty. You look like Postman Pat. Who's that?
Just briefly, if that is even possible, because we are looking at peace negotiations, what kind of deal would be acceptable to the two parties?
For the Armenian side, some kind of international mechanism is highly desirable because, as I mentioned, relying on these, extortionist, violent policies being put in place by Baku is not reasonable.
Fucking destroyed me, bro. Seth Rogen, eat your heart out. That's me. All right. Okay.
So even as
got me. Ricky, stop calling me Postman Pat.
As we speak, the United Nations Security Council is holding a discussion on this issue. If there is some kind of international mechanism that could create an atmosphere for an enduring peace, that might be the way forward.
This is Narek Safarian. Great speaking to you again. Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
Let's get more from our correspondent, Maria Katamadze, in the Armenian capital, Yerevan. Welcome, Maria. Russian peacekeepers are still evacuating Armenian civilians.
So does anyone see the difference between MSNBC and a legitimate news organization? MSNBC cuts to three idiots talking about fucking partisan politics. What is DW up to? On the fucking ground. Okay, yeah, we're going to have an interview from the relevant location we're talking about. Just night and day difference, folks.
Civilians from Nagorno-Karabakh. So is the ceasefire holding?
Yes, indeed. The Russian peacekeepers have evacuated thousands of Armenians, and now the Karabakh Armenians are deployed in Stepanakert airport, where the Russian military base is located. So we've been hearing from locals that most of them, they're still in their homes, hiding and terrified. They have been hearing for a whole day the gunfire, but as of now, as they're telling us, the situation seems to be more calm and stabilized. But still, they're taking security measures, and they're being evacuated and staying homes as much as they can.
And tell us more about how people there in the Armenian capital have been reacting to this week's events.
No, they're chill. They're vibing.
They're actually now right at the Russian embassy, where some protesters have been gathering, and there's a very interesting development here. The Yerevan people are coming here to voice their criticism, not just against their government, but to show that they're disappointed with how Russia handled this conflict. It's worth noting that Karabakh Armenians always supported Vladimir Putin. They had really good relations with Russian authorities, and this crucial moment when they needed their help, they felt like they didn't receive it, and they felt left behind.
That's what you get, man. I mean, and honestly, this is an opportunity for the West to come in. I mean, what's up, Uncle Sam? You can't hand out some hot soup and some sandwiches? Is that completely beyond the pale of possibility? If Uncle Sam rolled up with some hot soup and sandwiches, or what, are they going to get kicked? No, get your ass back out of there. I mean, come on, man. This is an opportunity.
And people here are voicing the same concerns. They're saying that Russia is not a security guarantor as it used to be, and they're now changing their mind and saying that Russia is not trustable, and that's not their partner anymore.
Yo.
I feel like I am dying. I feel terrible.
Welcome back, Davey.
I've been fighting for the liberation of Nagorno-Karabakh for 36 years. Unfortunately, Nagorno-Karabakh surrendered. But the fight goes on.
That's what you get when you put your trust in Russia. That's what you get. They're even worse than the West when it comes to their blatant manipulation.
Let's see how our two peoples coexist, and then we will see what happens.
Pineapple's so
everybody in the world has to hear the Armenian people. And every time when something has happened, nobody is listening. And this is wrong. Everybody has to listen to the Armenian people. Because
mean, it does. Davey bringing up that it was Azerbaijan's land before the occupation, 30 years ago. It does sound like there needs to be some kind of compromise from both sides on this, because I mean, what happens when you don't compromise with an ethnic minority? You get a fucking, genocide. Sunni, the Shia, etc. Fill in the blank. I mean, look at what's happening in Ireland, for God's sakes. Like, you need to come to some compromise, or else things become untenable.
This is the wrong way to.
Ireland is not ethnic minority. Sorry, it's a religious minority. But you get the point. It's it's ethnic religious minorities. If some compromise isn't made, they're inherently religion and that kind of stuff is inherently like unflexible. It's super unflexible. So you're never going to make it go away just by a police state and just saying, no, it's not that way. Like, you do have to come to some compromise.
Everybody has to help.
Yeah, there you go, Cam Goblin.
It's mainly very sad, just because of the attitude of our neighbors. It's terrible. I mean, specifically when you think about your ally just betray you in all the ways.
So, Maria, today's peace talks ended without agreement. So what happens next?
Yes, indeed, the peace talks ended without agreement, and we couldn't really expect too much from a one-day meeting since this conflict has been ongoing for decades. But what Azerbaijani side is saying that they will provide fuel to Karabakh Armenians, and they will make sure that emergency services can be accessed to people in need. They also said that the meeting was conducted in a, quote, positive and constructive atmosphere. So after the meeting, the Nagorno-Karabakh officials didn't really said much, but Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said that Yerevan would be ready to receive 40,000 of possible refugees, ethnic Armenians coming from Nagorno-Karabakh, but also stressed that it's important that they have the right to stay at their homes and not to leave Nagorno-Karabakh.
Wow, so like 40,000 people are convinced that there's going to be some insane shit happening and are now refugees. Great.
Thanks for that, DW correspondent Maria Katamadze in Yerevan.
Yeah, good job, Maria, there. Great journalism from DW. Love to see it. Okay, folks, I'd love to dwell on Azerbaijan, and it looks like we're just going to have to be doing that deep dive like I promised next week. So we're going to be doing that next week for sure. Moving on, though, quite quickly. Sorry about that, but we have to. We're going on to our final section here, the Ukraine section, and just wanted to get just an update on the situation. We had Zelensky in Canada just recently, so. And Canada giving up, I think, $650 million worth of material to Zelensky. So that's good news. That's how many Armenia is ready to take, not how many there are. I see. Thank you, Chem Goblin, for that correction. Yeah, no, I mean, what? I mean, that's not a solution. Just to what? Drain the area of ethnic Armenians? Just exile them? Come on. I mean, come on. Is this the fucking 1700s? What the fuck is this? We're just gonna have a roving gang of nomads who don't have a home? Come on, dog. Enough of this. It's the complete and utter inability to compromise on both sides that creates these problems. And this is where the West could come in as an official mediator. Right? Sweeten the deal for both sides. Hey, we'll give you a break, a tariff. We'll give you a trade deal if you agree to this. And hey, we'll give you, we'll ship 50 tons of grain to you if you do this. You know what I mean? This is where the West could come in and make some peace. And, and like U.S. politicians used to give a shit about this. I remember Nixon taking credit for China. Kennedy doing a great job with outreach. Barack Obama, right? I guess. I mean, Barack Obama just, charmed everybody. It's not like he substantive, but you know what I mean? Like, what happened to like creating peace as a feather in your cap as a politician? Azerbaijan is being supported by Turkey and Israel. They don't need to compromise. They can win. I mean, that's the thing, though. And it's like, even in that position, they should because like, so you're just going to tell the entire ethnic minority, nope, no compromise. And they're just going to sit there and stew and what? Churn into some radical ethnic minority that then has to be suppressed. And now we got police on the streets and people are dying. You know, so tired of it. The complete and utter inability to compromise by these so-called leaders. It's a problem everywhere, seemingly. No one wants to budge on anything. So moving on to Ukraine, our final segment of today. U.S. to give Ukraine long-range missiles, reports say. This is from the BBC. So I think this is the ATACMS, ATACKMS, something like that.
Ukraine advanced long-range missiles to help with its ongoing counter-offensive against Russia. That's according to reports in the American media. They quote U.S. officials familiar with the issue, saying Ukraine will get some long-range missiles similar to the ones we're seeing here, with a range of up to 190 miles. Now, that would allow Kyiv to hit Russian targets deep behind the front line. Neither the U.S. or
Dude, the fucking Kerch Bridge is fucking toast. Dude, the bridge is toast.
Ukraine have officially confirmed those media reports. Now, this comes as the Ukrainian military claims it struck the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea naval fleet in occupied Crimea with Storm Shadow cruise missiles supplied by Britain and France. The building in Sevastopol appears to have been hit by at least 2 missiles, causing extensive damage. Black smoke was still rising from Sevastopol hours after the attack. Russia's Ministry of Defense said 1 serviceman was missing. Meanwhile, President Zelensky's just wrapped up a week-long visit to the US and Canada, where he appealed to lawmakers for further support in the ongoing conflict. On Friday, Canada's Justin Trudeau pledged nearly $500 million in aid to Ukraine. That includes 50 armoured vehicles, as well as training for F-16 pilots and engineers to be delivered over a 3-year period. All that's in addition to a $325 million package from the US, announced during President Zelensky's visit.
50 tanks over 3 years? No. That's fucking fucked up. It's going to take 3 years to pull these tanks out of the warehouse and get them over there? That's unacceptable. What? Come on.
Visit to Washington, D.C. on Thursday.
They need those tanks yesterday.
Well, earlier I spoke to Peter Zalmayev, who's the director of Eurasia Democracy Initiative. We began by discussing the long-range missiles the U.S. is reportedly supplying to Kyiv.
Well, No, I think Davey has a good point that the military-industrial complex is going to, because like people are forgetting that the military-industrial complex has more power than the president. And I mean, I don't know. I guess it is possible that the U.S. president could just cut off all support for Ukraine, but there's gonna be a massive internal pushback to that if we see that actually come to fruition by right-wing governments if one were to take over. I mean, honestly, the deep state, as much as that's used dishonestly, there is the military-industrial complex. It does have its own independent power, separate of the president, basically. Technically, it doesn't, but it obviously does. So yeah, that would be interesting, right? We might see another JFK situation, right? We might see another Kennedy whoopsie doodle happen. Boy, that would be wild. An American president getting assassinated. Wow. Right? Because he's like trying to end the Ukraine war. Wow, that would be fucking crazy.
I mean, this is something Ukraine has been waiting for since probably the beginning of this war, or at least the beginning of Russia's offensive in the east. Attacking missiles would be significant.
Davey, I mean, you know, you're being a little hyperbolic, but it's actually not totally dishonest. Do you think that's a good system, though, or do you think we should change that system? Because personally, I don't think that's a very healthy system.
addition to Ukraine's arsenal, which Ukraine, as you know, is already showing some success with its domestic, locally produced missiles, which was just demonstrated in Crimea. But there's nothing like
really quick double tap.
And what's more important is that it could open the door to German-made Taurus missiles, which are probably even better for what Ukraine needs. And Ukraine needs to continue hitting on Russian.
This is just an arms playground, man. All the top arms manufacturers get to get all their best. It's what is it? A battle lab is what I think is the term being used. I mean, they just get to do whatever the fuck they want. This is crazy.
Infrastructure targets, military hub, resupply.
All this brand new tech
in Crimea, in the south, the Azov Sea, to severely disrupt those supply lines.
Davey, surely you don't need me to give you the downsides. You're being very, very positive towards the idea of the military-industrial complex running our lives. You don't see any downsides, buddy? Really?
And already Ukraine has shown tremendous success in essentially neutralizing the Russian Black Sea.
You talk about maintaining a relative status quo. You do realize the relative status quo is the United States ruling the planet Earth. That is the current status quo that is being created, that fucking America runs everything. Is that really sustainable? Is that really what you want? That's not, I don't want that. I don't think that should be the status quo. The military industrial complex, having full control over the fucking planet. Of course, there wouldn't be an American flag planted on every country, but it would be like all geopolitical power flows through the United States. That is the goal. That is what the military industrial complex wants. I don't think that's a good thing.
Sea fleet, which is sitting there and preventing Ukraine's grain exports from happening.
Well, let's talk about that. These claims from the Ukrainian military that they have struck the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea naval fleet. What do you make of that?
This was a tremendous.
It sounds to me like you agree with my assessment that the United States wants to rule the world and that you're okay with that. And that's pretty fucking depressing. That's pretty sad. Okay? Because a real patriot of the United States of America would want justice and liberty for all. What you're describing is slavery.
This demonstration of Ukraine's ability, contrary to what some Western experts are saying, they're telling Ukraine not to get distracted with Crimea, to concentrate on the counteroffensive elsewhere. I think Ukraine's strategy is paying off. The Institute for the Study of War just came out on Thursday with the report, and it says that, I'm quoting, elements of the Black Sea Fleet's 110th Naval Infantry Brigade are engaged in critical defense operations in western Zaporizhia Oblast, and the Black Sea Fleet's 22nd Army Corps is defending positions in the east bank of Kherson Oblast, which is to say that obviously all these operations are very much tied together. So this is it's been part of Ukraine's broader effort to go after Russian logistics, fuel maintenance centers, and essentially, once again, to disrupt their supply lines. In short order, they took out a ship repair facility in Sevastopol, a military airfield in Crimea. They took out a very costly S-400 missile defense complex. And for the first time since World War II, they destroyed a Russian
Can you give me the
submarine.
link in the Discord there, DCH?
Briefly,
we'll cover that later this
week. There has been widespread consensus that the counter-offensive hasn't really gone as quickly as perhaps Ukraine had hoped. It hasn't, been on track. So what would you make of these latest developments when we look?
I mean, and Tisrael, I thought Russia was worried about a pending invasion, It's so funny to see them draining their resources on all these other borders that they claim that are so important that, we're going to be invaded any moment. They're such fucking liars. But yeah, DCH, thanks for putting that in the Discord. I'll be sure to cover that later this week. Just real quick, the Uyghurs in China deserve to be free. They don't deserve to live under oppression.
Look at the course of that counteroffensive.
I think they will very much aid in this offensive. And once again, I think we have to move from this position that Ukraine has a few more weeks to go, and that it'll have to put this counteroffensive on hold and negotiate with the Russians. First of all, the Russians are not going to negotiate. I don't know who said that they are willing to do that.
Exactly.
And second of all, Zelensky said
that
during his Canadian visit, once again, that Ukraine will not stop. With the coming of cold and with weather worsening, Ukraine intends to plow right through the winter and into the spring.
You goddamn right. You goddamn right. And this is a just response to an invasion. So more power to Ukraine. Did you do something about the standard of living? Suicide nets have gone up for nothing, I would assume. I mean, Xi Jinping is actually, I just saw a video a couple days ago. Xi Jinping is, his political rivals are disappearing right now. So it looks like Xi Jinping is basically solidifying full dictatorship. He's just setting up a full dictatorship now. Removing even the facade that was put up of some kind of democratic system that they supposedly have, but that can't be had as that's got to go. So I think he's basically setting himself up for dictator for life. Communist systems for the people when suicide rates skyrocket. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it's fair to communists to call China a communist system. Right. And if you are a communist and you're pointing to China as a successful example of a communist government, you're fucking it up for everybody. OK, because if China is your example of a success story, I want nothing to do with fucking communism. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's even fair to communism to point to China. And if you're doing that, you're not helping your side make the defense for communism as the future of government. Funnily enough, they don't have a success story. They have some mild successes, and I mean, they have the Bolshevik Revolution and all this other things. But yeah, no, in terms of a modern major country, but the same thing goes for capitalism. When you see a country 100% jump into capitalism and say everything is run with the free market, it turns into a complete fucking miserable disaster, right? So it's like what I talk about. We need a hybridized system. We have to accept that we will never have purity. We're never going to have full capitalism, full communism, right? We need to slot in what works. Oh, this works really well under socialism. This works really well under capitalism, right? And just keep mixing these isms together, right? Whatever works, whatever system works appropriately for the service that is required, and we just keep mixing it up. All right, so let's finish up our Ukraine coverage here real quick. I mean, we basically covered the Trudeau stuff actually with that previous BBC video. So let's move right on next to our cyber attack in Crimea after the Black Sea Fleet was attacked. Apparently, it was followed up with a cyber attack of some sort. So let's jump in and see what the hell this is about. Social liberalism, call it whatever the hell you want, right? And I do think by the time we've like really hybridized capitalism and socialism and communism and all this, when we've really reached that hybridized system, we will come up with a new name. We will come up with a new ism to describe that. But we got to stop tripping on this political purity. We got to stop listening to these people that, the solution is just to free up the market. No, the solution is to institute a full communist revolution. You got to cut those people out of your life because they honestly don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You don't deal with human beings and expect purity and perfection from a so why in the world would our a system that governs human beings that works with human beings, why would that ever be perfect? It would be messy, it would be technical and detailed and nuanced, and a special exemption for this and a special exemption for that. It's complicated because it's human. So the people that are like, oh, the solution is simple, we just need to go hard on the communism, are full of shit. And it's the same thing for the right wingers and all the pro-capitalist libertarian idiots as well. They're full of shit. They don't seem to work amongst humans.
Russia's Black Sea Fleet in the Crimean port of Sevastopol. The governor of the Russian occupied region has said that at least one missile has hit the Navy headquarters and urged people there to stay at home because of the possibility of a further attack. Well, these are the latest pictures from outside the main headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet. Russian news outlets have reported that residents of Sevastopol say they heard explosions and saw smoke. One serviceman is missing, that's according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Russian military installations on the Crimean Peninsula have been a frequent target since Vladimir Putin ordered the invasion of Ukraine more than 18 months ago.
Dirty crackhead.
Well, the military analyst Sean Bell is in the studio and joins me now. Sean, hello to you.
Good afternoon, Bell.
Let's begin. We're talking about more attacks, more Ukrainian attacks on the Black Sea Fleet. Just give us an update on this latest one.
Yeah, the latest one, what we know is Russian claims they've shot down 5 missiles that were trying to attack Crimea, but at least one appears to have got through and hit the Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters.
Wow, really?
Which is actually based in Sevastopol on Ukraine, on the island of Crimea.
That is a ghoulish bet to get right. I mean, I'm very happy that Ukraine is targeting military installations, because they're going to be. I mean, Crimea is going to be under attack for as long as Russia occupies it. So, I hope for the strength of the Ukrainian people to last.
Yeah. Now, it's worth remembering that Ukraine doesn't have a navy, or doesn't now have a navy that can combat the Black Sea Fleet. So they've been forced to do asymmetric attacks, and that's why they've been using drones
really
to attack
DCH,
Russian ships. They attacked the Kilo-class submarine in dry dock.
Waka Flocka is well-known historian Waka Flocka Flame.
And they've been doing a whole series of attacks.
Yeah, Tisrael, yeah, but you still have the retaliation from Russia. I wouldn't be surprised for Russia to attack civilian buildings inside Crimea in retaliation to what's happening, right? If they're like, oh, well, that building was full of ethnic Ukrainians, you know what I mean? I mean, they're pathetic. So, I mean, those people still have something to worry about.
Attacks.
Or just pretend, sure, false flag, sure. They haven't seemed to be, it's really funny when they plant a false flag, the United States immediately comes out and says, oh my God, they're about to do a flag, and then they never do it, right? So they've actually had a really hard time with false flags.
And now this headquarters, which is where all the senior officers are, the strategic planning for the Black Sea Fleet is done. So this will be a major impact for the Russians. Now, the Russians never admit to any damage to these to these sort of structures, but footage has emerged of a pretty violent blaze going on. And we've heard reports that actually the normal firefighting services has been bolstered by a whole load more emergency service. So there's a pretty intensive fire blazing there. It's a pretty intensive damage that's been done.
This isn't the first time we've talked about attacks on the Black Sea Fleet. So what picture is starting to emerge about what the Ukrainians are doing here?
Yeah, what we need to do is try and link all this stuff up. So for many months, we've been talking about Russian attacks of targets across Ukraine. And largely, yes, some of them have been attacking energy infrastructure. Some of them are attacking the morale of the Ukrainian people. But there doesn't seem to be military objectives around most of this targeting. However, at the same time, Ukraine has been doing a whole series of what looks now a lot more coordinated attacks across Russian positions and in Russia itself. And let's just walk around some of those. First of all, we've looked at the Black Sea Fleet. Why they've been trying to push them further east, away from Crimea. Why are they doing that? Because the Russians desperately need logistics support that the Black Sea Fleet provides to support their forces in southern Ukraine. Likewise, Crimea, they've been attacking the actual amphibious assault on the side, also now attacks on the headquarters, because again, Russia won't want to lose Crimea. It's a jewel in the crown, and therefore it fixes a lot of Russian forces there. If we then look around the country, Dnipro River out beside you.
I mean, quick double tap sounds good to me, you know. When it comes to the political policies, I think people get really hung up on the labels. You know, it's like, oh, I don't want that socialist policy. Well, but it would help your life dramatically. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I guess I'm just wary of new. I mean, I'm sure this term that you're using is not new. Social liberalism. It sounds familiar. I think we might have even watched a video about social liberalism. So it's all good. But like I said, I try to speak in a general manner, right? And generally, whatever we call it, what we need to do is hybridize our systems. Socialism, capitalism, communism, libertarianism. There's a couple good points that libertarians make about freedom, the ability to defend yourself without having to worry about getting sued because you struck back, those kind of things, right? So whatever we call it, the general thesis is that we have to stop demanding purity, and we have to start accepting that whatever system governs us is going to be complicated and messy because it's human. That's the point that I'm trying to get at.
Remember the Kharkovka dam was blown, but to stop the Russian forces being exposed.
What good points do communists make? Our police force and our firefighting force is basically socialist. You understand that, right? It's taxed, provided by local or federal government. It seems to be a pretty good socialist system. I don't want a capitalist police system. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, Jumbo Jack. See, you're demanding purity. You're like, anything that's labeled socialism is bad. That's the ignorance that I'm trying to combat, is your ignorance right now. Well, that means everything's socialism. No, I mean, you're being hyperbolic because now you're fear-mongering. What we need to continue to do is hybridize socialism and capitalism until we've found a workable system moving forward. That's what we need to continue to do. And that's what democracy allows us to do. Democracy allows us to say, this is working, let's keep this going. This is not working, let's remove this. This isn't working, let's change this. It's all affected by the people, 51% or greater, right? That's why democracy is such a great tool. It will help us hybridize these isms so that it works for human beings.
On the flank, but now that's all settled down, the Ukrainians are doing regular attacks across the Dnipro. Why? It fixes Russian forces over there.
Sure, buddy, I can definitely define socialism for you. No problem.
But the Ukrainians are still trying to encircle that.
Let me just get my definitions up here real quick.
Russian force up there that they can't move.
Just going to pull out my notes about the definition of socialism for you there, buddy. I know, you got me. You got me dead to rights. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Oh, no. You got me. I don't know the definition of socialism, so therefore I don't have a legitimate voice to talk about these things, guys. Isn't it great when you don't have a good rebuttal and you just immediately start attacking the person and you're like, oh, I'm an honest actor. I'm being an honest actor. I'm just trying to have a debate. I'm just trying to have a discussion. No, you're not. You're trying to win a debate that you just started. So fuck off. Fuck off.
Way.
And if you want a definition of socialism, communism, it's motherfucking workers control the means of production. There you go. Is that the definition you're looking for? No? Oh, okay. Because they're never said, I could literally have said anything. And it would have been, no, it's not. No, it's not. That's not the definition. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're an idiot. You shouldn't be able to talk about these things. No, it's not. Fuck you.
And if you therefore look at fuel depots out near me, there's fuel depots just behind the front line, also in Russia and in Moscow. All of those are designed to distract Russian forces. And so what's actually emerging is this all part of a very clever, coordinated attack by the Ukrainians.
So is that the plan, essentially, to get the Russians focused on other areas whilst they hit the Black Sea?
Well, that comes to the nut. What the Ukrainians, the main effort has always been to try and sever the land bridge.
No, exactly, DCH, exactly. Because it's not about getting clarity or trying to find, what the person is talking about. It's a debate tactic to try and make the person speaking sound stupid or look stupid, right? Well, they can't even define it by my by my definitions, they can't even define what the word means, so they're not an expert on the subject. It's a lame attempt to diminish what the person is speaking, and they only do it when they don't have a good rebuttal. They only do it when they have nothing else to say.
And what we're seeing here is a little salient that they've been working at eroding. Now, unfortunately, this has been the site of some pretty substantial Russian defenses. We've looked at trench lines,
Thank you, quick
Dragon's
double tap.
Teeth, and extensive minefields. And 4 months in, that the troops have to go in first. They have to dismantle everything. Then they have to push the sides of the salient aside. That allows the armour to come through. And for the first time, we're now hearing reports that Ukrainian armour has been to the scene to the south of the Russian defensive lines. Now, if that is true, that will be the single most impressive and most decisive moment of this offensive to date.
time.
Because they can then flood through armour, and then the floodgates can start to open before then. What looks likely is that President Zelensky briefed this to President Biden, because the package of aid that was announced wasn't generic aid. It was all aid that specifically anti-tank weapons, more tanks, more HIMARS systems, all of which are going to help specifically with this offensive. The big challenge, of course, is time. As ever, there's only 3 to 4 weeks to go before the rains arrive in this region. That will turn this area into a complete mud bath. And the danger is then, if it stalls, the Russians will entrench their positions further. We're back to square one. Or, of course, if the winter comes about, we end up with some sort of frozen conflict, both literally and metaphorically.
All right, sister.
The real thing about Crimea is that fucking bridge. It's the Kerch Bridge. Once the Kerch Bridge is down, no more traffic, and it's not going to be fixed anytime soon, then we're going to see dynamics loosen up and change in Crimea quite dramatically. I believe, at least. All right, and the final video for today pertaining to Ukraine is our map update. Got to get that map update, folks. From Reporting from Ukraine. Love this channel, by the way. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed immediately. Check out Reporting from Ukraine.
Day 500.
The best. No bloviation, no bullshit. I will say, you know, he does an eerily good job of transitioning into the advertisement at the end. He does this really slick transition, and if you're not paying attention, all of a sudden you're listening to an advertisement. So that aside, he does really good reporting, sticks to the point, gives you the map update, doesn't talk for 10, 15 minutes. Really good content creator. And no, I'm not criticizing Dennis. I think Dennis is great. Like and subscribe to Dennis as well. But here we go. Let's get our final update here from Reporting from Ukraine.
76. Today there is a lot of news from the south. As promised by the head of Ukrainian intelligence, the attacks on the Russian bases in Crimea continued. By conducting these operations, Ukrainians are pursuing 2 goals of strategic significance: undermine supplies to the front and force Russians to relocate their air defense away from the
How soon when those new cruise missiles get into Ukraine's hands will we see the Kerch Bridge being attacked? How soon? What do you think? 2 weeks? 1 week? That bridge is a dead bridge walking. That bridge has a fucking expiration date.
The front. Today, Ukrainians conducted a very complex strike, combining aerial drones, modified anti-ship missiles, and cruise missiles.
Look at the pathetic attempt from Russia to what are they trying to do here? I mean, you know what I mean? What are you hiding? We see it. We saw it. We know what the damage is. We have up close video of people zooming their cameras directly into the wreckage. What are you trying to do here? This is just pathetic.
The main target of today's strike became the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Interestingly, 2 days ago, we saw how Ukrainians destroyed the secondary headquarters of the command of the fleet. So it looks like Ukrainians wanted to make sure that the Russian command was present in the main building during today's strike. There were 2 stages. At first, Ukrainians launched several groups of drones toward Tarkhankut and Sevastopol to
DCH, if you could find a documentary on this individual, I'd love to play it, because I would really love to show communism in a better light than China and other, and Stalin and old Soviet era. You know what I mean? I'd really like to show good examples of actual functioning communism. I would really like to show that. one of the sources they stipulated was that no home to Russia rest and recreation. So Russian morale is poorer because of this. Yeah, no, they shouldn't be able to rest and relax safely in occupied Crimea. I'll take a look. Thank you, DCH. There's this funny Russian meme where this Botox guy that looks like a Chad is calling someone on the phone. Recently made a good one with that template that goes, Kerch Bridge. Has it been bombed yet? Is it still there? Is it still there? I mean, you could take bets in Las fucking Vegas over the expiration date of this fucking bridge, dude. He was the co-founder of the PCP Polish Party. Oh, interesting.
Overload the air defense and then tried to strike Sevastopol with Neptune missiles. Russians were waiting for
one more time so you can see the strategy here. This is really cool.
There were two stages. At first, Ukrainians launched several groups of drones toward Tarkhankut and Sevastopol to overload the air defense and then tried to strike Sevastopol with Neptune missiles. Russians were waiting for and prioritizing the missiles, which is why even though some drones hit their targets, all Neptune missiles were shut down.
Damn.
But the strike continued, seamlessly flowing into the second stage. The aerial drone strikes intensified even more, and Russians could no longer ignore it.
Exactly,
Local residents reported explosions in Feodosia, likely near the oil depots. Explosions were also reported in Chernomorsk and Saki, where the drones likely targeted the airfield. Ukrainian drones were also seen close to Simferopol. All of that was done to exhaust the Russian air defense, because some Russian systems, like the Romanian S-400, could intercept missiles very far from the area where they are stationed. And it worked, because when Ukrainians launched Storm Shadow missiles, they once again flew over Tarkhankut without being shot down, implying that the air defense was overwhelmed.
Nice.
As a result, Ukrainians successfully hit the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet.
Wow, so they sacrificed drones and Neptune missiles to keep the air defense busy while the Storm Shadows went in and took out the HQ. And by the way, I think I haven't reported on this yet. They got an admiral at this HQ. They got like one of the top like admirals of the Black Sea Fleet in this strike.
Russian sources reported that the missile hit precisely the cabinet of the commander of the Black Sea Navy. Other sources noted that there were at least 6 casualties. Russian forces understood that there were likely more missiles to come, which is why they turned on the siren and deployed smokescreen to conceal the navy. And the Russians were right, because very soon local residents managed to catch on camera the arrival of 2 more missiles. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that Ukrainians hit the Navy headquarters, and as a result, 1 person is missing, who was likely the commander himself. Other military-affiliated sources claim that there was no one in the building. However, dozens of ambulances suggest otherwise.
Yeah, no, that... no, we're not... It didn't even bother us, bro. Didn't even hurt anybody, dude. Oh, yeah, sure. I guess those ambulances were just in case then, huh?
In response to this strike, Russians rolled out their multiple launch rocket systems to the shore, however no one knows why. Russian military analysts
just, I don't know, send them over there, I don't know, we gotta retaliate somehow.
Got upset with the performance of the Russian air defense and expressed doubt about the characteristics of the highly praised S-400 air defense system, as even the remaining 3 systems on the peninsula should have coped with the strike, especially given their integration with other systems on the peninsula. Some Russian analysts have been asserting for already 3 days in a row that Ukrainians are actually using ATACMS missiles that were shipped to Ukraine discreetly.
So they're already, they might already be using these motherfucking monsters? Hell yeah, boy. Hell yeah. What are we waiting for? Let's get this shit into Ukraine and get this shit over with, boys.
But the abundant photos and videos
Ivan was on a smoke break.
Clearly show that Russians were strapped with Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles.
Ah, I see. Okay. Yeah. These new high frame rate cameras, man, you can't hide anything from them. You can get the full profile of the fucking missile right there. It's crazy.
Nonetheless, today it was confirmed.
Well, that's a shame, DCH. Do keep your eyes peeled though, because like I said, it's a stream. I need to present the information in a stream-friendly manner. So, I mean, if you run across anything about similar stories and stuff like that, I'd love to show them, because, like I said, I don't think communists want to be pointing to China as a success story. You know what I mean? So if we're trying to make an honest, if we're trying to, have an honest debate about communism, let's get some good examples here,
that the United States will send Ukraine ATACMS missiles. President Biden reportedly promised President Zelensky to send a small number of such missiles. However, Ukrainians should receive not a 300-kilometer version that can wipe out big targets, but a 140-kilometer cluster bomb variant. This is extremely good news because Ukrainians already have HIMARS systems.
Look at that motherfucking launcher, dude. Look at these absolute fucking... What the fuck, dude? How many bomblets are in this? Oh my God, dude. And look at that launcher. Dude, what happened to the word bazooka? Can we bring bazooka back into the lexicon here? This is ridiculous.
That can be used to launch them, so no additional steps are needed, like training or modification of aircraft that Ukrainians had to introduce to Su-24 to be able to carry Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles. Judging by the dynamic...
No, totally. It looks like a bomb from like the cartoon bomb. It totally does. It totally looks like a cartoon bomb, dude. Watch, we start handing Ukraine little black bombs with like a fuse coming out of the top. They just light the fuse and throw it into a trench.
Like training or modification of aircraft that Ukrainians had to introduce to Su-24 to be able to carry Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles. Judging by the dynamics inside the Russian media space, Russians are already bracing for the new wave of strikes in the deep rear. If you're against the invasion...
There you go, folks. Well, I did the best I could, giving you some news coverage on Saturday. Napoleonic Grenadiers. Yeah, exactly, dude. They're just literally throwing these black bombs with a fuse going out on top. You know? Just adjust the volume here. All right, folks, that's all the time I got for you today. I actually got to take my wife fishing. We're going to go throw a line in the water. We're going to just enjoy the day. It's a gloomy gray day, but I love weather like this. So I hope you do the same. I hope you enjoy your Saturday. Last time I ended the stream and then immediately started reading news about Bob Menendez fucking pocketing gold bars. So I hope there's no more news that I have to cover tomorrow of just insane cartoonish corruption. So hopefully Bob Menendez and his ilk can chill out for a day so that I can take a proper vacation here. But folks, let's not forget the mission. The mission is the 3-step program. Step 1, inform yourself. Step 2, join a progressive political organization, union, run for office, whatever it is. Put your name down on something. All right, in step 3, you got to put in the work and treat this shit seriously. All right, the fascists are putting in the work. The hardliners are putting in the work. We got regular folks got to put in the work. We got to take our citizenship seriously, or else we're going to lose it. We're going to lose it. Big props to DCH. Looks like I pissed off Davey. Did you just bail on me, Davey? Poor guy. He got mad. He got mad that he was defending the military-industrial complex, and I called him out for it. Look, Davey, I'm not going to apologize for saying that that's a disgusting point of view. I will empathize and say that I understand where you're coming from if you're still watching. So big props to Quick Double Tap, Dirty Crackhead, Chem Goblin, Tisriel. Thank you for your comments. I do appreciate you guys coming in and livening up the chat. I do appreciate it. Oh, hey, Davey, thank you for sticking around. I do appreciate it. Playing Switch Sports. Hey, I need to get myself a Switch. One of these days. Thank you for sticking around, Davey. I do appreciate it. Sorry that we butted heads there. Big props to Equal Dari, Husky Canvas. Thank you, Husky Canvas, for coming in. Big props to Woke Patriot for his contributions in the Discord. Big props to Ford the Perfect. Thank you, Ford the Perfect, for coming back. Big props to you. Thank you for all of your support for the News Underground. Snow Momo Bro. Thank you for stopping in again. Do appreciate it. There's the Discord, folks, and don't forget we also have a YouTube. If you want to help your favorite news guy out, check out the YouTube, like and subscribe. God, I feel pathetic asking you to do that. But anyway, thank you for your support of the News Underground. I am Abandoned Nihilism. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Go grab your money, okay? Go grab that money, all right? And glory to the Ukrainian democracy, folks. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Yeah. Russia and Tucker Carlson, check that out later. Okay. Great. Same to you, quick double tap. Take care of yourself. Man, right-wingers in Russia. I didn't see that coming. Right-wingers in Russia. I just did not see that one coming. Thank you, DCH. Yeah, do a crip walk. Do a crip walk. Light that blunt, crip walk. Yeah. I tell you, this music does make you want to sea walk, dude. It does. I'll show you Chem Goblin. So yeah, this is what crip walking looks like. Well, this isn't very good because he's explaining it. Oh, let me show you. Here we go. Yo, dude, these guys are so good, dude. Yeah. I tell you, this music does make you want to crip walk. Hell yeah, boy. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East.